For the 47th problem on the second ACT practice test, a number is increased by 25% and the resulting number is then decreased by 20%. The final number is what percent of the original number? So with this problem, there are a couple different ways that you could approach it. One way is to just pick some random number, say the number 100, and then increase it by 25%. And whatever that new number is, you then decrease that by 20%. And whatever number you end up with, you can compare it to the starting number of 100 and see what percent of that starting number the new number is. So basically, this approach is just picking some number at random and then using these two operations to see what you end up with. Now, another way to approach this is to define a variable. So I'll say x is our original number. And what we're first going to do is increase this number by 25%. So we'll have our starting number, x, and we're going to increase it by 25%. So we'd have to multiply this number x by 25%. And then add it to the original. So we have our original, and then we're going to add to it x times 25%. And 25% as a decimal is 0.25. Basically, to get rid of the percent sign, you would take the decimal and just move it 2 places to the left. So with this in mind, we're now taking our original and adding to it this increase of 25%, or this is just 0.25 times x. So this right here is our increase of 25%. And adding x plus 0.25x. You can think of x as 1x. And we're adding 0.25x to it, so that gives us 1.25x. So this is essentially our resulting number. When you read this paragraph here, we increased our number by 25%, and then the resulting number is then decreased by 20%. So we have to take this number here, this 1.25x, and decrease it by 20%. So we have our 1.25x, our new number, and we're decreasing it by 20%. So essentially, we'll take this new number, multiply it by 20%, and then subtract that from the new number. Or in other words, from this, we're going to subtract the new number multiplied by 20%. So we're subtracting 0.2 times this 1.25x. And from here, it might be easiest to see that between these two terms, so this term here and this term here, they each share the common factor of this 1.25x. So let's factor it out. So we have 1.25x, which we've factored out, and once we pull it out of here, we'd be left with just 1. And from here, once we pull out this 1.25x, we're left with just minus 0.2. And you can always test this by just redistributing and seeing if you get back the original equation or expression. So with this, we have our 1.25x, and then 1 minus 0.2. If you put this into the calculator, what you get is 0.8. So now, in your calculator, you need to multiply 1.25 times 0.8. Or you could think of these in terms of fractions. 1.25 is just 5/4 of x times 0.8, and 0.8 is just 4/5. So when you multiply 5/4 times 4/5, everything cancels out and you're left with just 1. So what you end up with is x. So in the end, because we increased our number by 25%, and then with that new number, we decreased it by 20%, we ended up with the original number. So to answer the question, the final number is what percent of the original number. And since we got back the original number, we can say that it's 100% of the original number.